If there was a contest for most adorable Pokemon, I think Quagsire would be an easy finalist. It's a little bit dopey and a little bit derpy, and that could be why I'm so drawn to it. But Quagsire is the next Pokemon we're going to be taking around the Johto and Kanto regions, so let me know how well do you think Quagsire will do. In Generation 2, Wooper and Quagsire had a unique type combination with Water Ground. That means it's immune to electric and also resists poison, rock, steel and fire. Water Ground also only has one weakness, but it is unfortunately a 4 times weakness to Grass, so let's hope this does not hold up Quagsire as we go around the game. I used the Universal Pokemon Randomizer to replace Totodile with Wooper. The reason I picked Totodile is to give the rival Chikorita, and that will give the rival a 4 times type advantage over us in every single battle, which could prove to be quite costly. Now I couldn't really think of a decent nickname for Wooper, so I just called it Woop Woop. It was the best I could do in about the 3 minutes I had, because this run was done live on stream. Now Wooper doesn't have the best base stats, so let's take a look. We've got 22 HP, Water Gun and Tail Whip are our moves, we're holding a berry, attack 10, defense 10, special attack 9, special defense 9 and speed 8. So we're slow and we have better physical attack over special attack, and our only move at the moment is a special attack. And we can now get the challenge underway. The full list of rules is in the description down below if you are curious, and as always I will show you the very first encounter. We run into a level 2 Rattata, and it's a speed tie with this Rattata, which is a little bit concerning seeing as we are more than double its level, but a couple of water guns does take it out, and with that we can move on towards Mr. Pokemon's house. We have a little chat with Professor Oak, who's having a little catch up with Mr. Pokemon, and we receive our Pokedex. And when we leave we get the call from Professor Elm telling us that he's had a Pokémon Solo, and we just so happen to run into the culprit outside of Cherry Grove City. It's our rival and he has a Chikorita, and really we have just one option: try and survive all the tackles. Chikorita doesn't have the greatest attack in the world, and we are holding a berry, and that berry comes in very crucial because we are just going to have to chip away with Water Gun. We get our next move at level 11 and it would be much slower to grind up there, and I also think it would have been a lot slower to grind out the 55 PP needed to get to Struggle, and after what felt like a lifetime of Water Guns we do knock it out eventually. We tell the police officer that the rival's name is triple question mark, and then we can head on over towards Violet City. Our first destination in Violet City is the gym. There is no way we're going to be taking on Sprout Tower with our 4 times weakness to Grass at the moment, so we're just going to have to go for the gym instead. And here is where our relatively low base stat total comes into play. We get defeated by that first Spearow, who coincidentally has the same attack stat as Falkner's Pidgeotto, and we're just going to have to grind a couple more levels before I think we'll comfortably take him out. We're at that point of the game where one level can make all the difference and turn a very difficult battle into something a little bit easier. And so after spending a few minutes beating up the local wildlife around Violet City, we grow to level 10, and hopefully this will be enough to at least take out the very first bird keeper. We'll get to the others as and when we come to them. For now, we just want to get through this battle. Spearow comes out, it uses Peck because it outspeeds, and we're doing roughly a third damage each time. And yeah, this time it's an awful lot easier. We survived with just under half our health. We had no problems with the next bird keeper, so let's engage Falkner in battle. He will lead with a Pidgey, and we will just water gun it because that's still our only move. And we got very lucky against this Pidgey. All 3 of his tackles missed. I'm not 100% sure on the maths on this, but that seems like it could be something like a 1 in 400 chance of happening. So that means we are onto the Pidgeotto with full health. I decided to slam it a couple of times, even though slam is a highly inaccurate move, and we do manage to take him out. And that means we get our first badge with a time of 11 minutes and 1 second. We can move on out of Violet City and head towards Azalea Town, where we have some HM friends to catch. As always, we will pause the timer until we find the HM friends in question, and our first HM friend today is Psyduck. Psyduck is one of the most useful field move users you can have on your team. It can learn so many field moves, and I am still considering adding a second Psyduck onto the team just to get a little bit more coverage, but that would only be for Pokemon where I cannot catch Snorlax. But we've caught a Psyduck and we can move on to the Paras. This particular Psyduck is going to learn Surf, Strength, Waterfall and Whirlpool, and the Paras is going to learn Dig, Cut, Sweet Scent and Flash. And although doing Sprout Tower is a little bit of a time loss, I will always go and get Flash. I don't want to rely on my own sense of direction for trying to get through some of the caves, especially the Whirl Islands. They really confuse me even with Flash, and with that we can move on into Azalea Gym. Now luckily for us, Bugsy does not have any grass types on his team. He's got a bug type, a bug poison type and a bug flying type. He leads with Metapod, we use Water Gun on it, and it's looking like it's going to be a 3 shots for the Metapod. Down it goes, we're on 47 HP for the Kakuna. Now Kakuna can be very, very pesky because it knows Poison Sting and can poison us just like that. That puts us on a very, very tight clock for the Scyther. Scyther's Fury Cutter's building power, Poison is whittling us away, and we have no chance. We're going to have to go back on the grind once more. So the first person we're going to talk to is Hiker Anthony. I think at this point we should be safe to take him out. If you're running a normal type especially, Hiker Anthony is very, very dangerous. Machopp's low kick can deal huge damage against you. I have had more than my fair share of resets with Hiker Anthony. Just a swift low kick to the legs normally is enough to take out a normal type, but in this instance he was no issue at all, and we can go into the Dark Cave where it's filled with rock ground types to get just another level off a Geodude. And now that we are at level 19, we can see if those extra couple of levels will get the job done. Out comes the Metapod, we use Water Gun against it, and it's still going to be a 3 shot against the Metapod. Our special attack is only 25, which isn't great, and that means we're stuck a little bit between a rock and a hard place, because we can either use an inaccurate physical move, or we can use an accurate but very low powered special move. In this instance on the Scyther, I decide to use a couple of tail whips. I then slam but miss. We recover using a berry, but it's no use. But I do think at this level we can take him out. I might just need to use one fewer tail whip. So we Water Gun the Metapod again, and this time we take it down in 3 shots. As we move on to the Kakuna, we are on 55 HP, and that isn't bad at all. Now, we do outspeed this time, which means we only have one opportunity to get poisoned. We don't, and we move on to the Scyther. Scyther uses Quick Attack, and that lets us get a Tail Whip in. Our Slam connects and gets a critical hit. We knock out the Scyther, and we have defeated Bugsy in a time of 26 minutes and 21 seconds. That's not bad considering all the grinding we had to do. And now it's time for rival number 2. I think this is the hardest rival fight in the game, because he leads with Ghastly, which loves to paralyze or hypnotize. In this instance, we get sent to sleep, and all of my Pokemon seem to love staying asleep for as long as they possibly can. Lick isn't a powerful move, but of course he has to get a critical hit in there, and we're straight back to sleep. Really, the only way we could even consider surviving Bayleaf is by being at full health, so this is not fortuitous, but I will give it a go anyway. We're on 32 health as the Bayleaf comes out. We try using a Slam, but a Razor Leaf takes us straight out. Back on the grind once more, and we've run out of trainers, so it's just going to have to be wild Pokemon. We'll start off with this level 7 Rattata. That'll take us nicely to level 20, the level at which Wooper evolves. However, I decided not to evolve because I wasn't sure whether Quagsire learned Amnesia at level 21. So we get the extra level, and now we evolve and learn Amnesia at the same time. That is going to be a boon because all grass type moves in this generation are special, and Amnesia greatly boosts our special defense. So using a couple of those, we can then just laugh at the Meganium. We can say 4 times weakness to what? It doesn't matter to us. So we start by using a couple of Amnesia against the Ghastly as it uses Spite and then sends us to sleep, and now it's going to start licking us. A critical hit only does 2 damage now, because we have more than doubled our base stats going from Wooper to Quagsire, and now we are a little bit bulkier. We still don't have the best stats in the world, and we still don't OHKO a Ghastly, but we are very much better than we were before. Out comes the Bayleaf, we use a Slam to take it into the yellow, another Slam connects and takes it deep into the red, and we can knock it out on our 3rd turn. We've just got Zubat left to go. Water Gun takes it down into the yellow, and another Water Gun knocks it out, and we have finally defeated the rival quite a long time after beating Bugsy. So we'll now get to the Cut HM because we're allowed back in the Ilex Forest. We'll get Headbutt, which is a much more reliable physical move. And even though we don't have a great speed stat, we're still going to be able to get some flinches off on some of the even slower Pokemon than Quagsire. We'll then go into the department store and buy the only punch we can learn this run. It's Ice Punch, and we are going to replace that hideously inaccurate Slam with it. Slam, I think, is one of the least useful moves in the game. Unlike Body Slam, it doesn't have the chance to paralyze, and it's only 75% accurate with no secondary effects at all. That just isn't worth it for only a base 80 power move. But with that, we'll get the bike, we'll get the coin case, and then we'll give our Quagsire a cheeky little haircut. Not quite sure where the Haircut Brother's doing on this Quagsire, but he does manage to give one anyway. And we can move on into the department store. We're going to pick up our next field move friend, and this one is Abra. Abra is used for one thing and one thing only, and that is Teleport. Teleport is great as budget fly at the start of the game, and it's also useful in Kanto to skip back to the power plant. We'll then go and steal another Kenya, and I think this is Kenya number 18 in main runs. probably Kenya number 21 in total overall. Somebody will have to let me know the figures, because I haven't been writing them down. There are too many of them. I'm surrounded by Kenya at home, but we'll then go into the National Park and pick up the Quick Claw. And we might as well just glue the Quick Claw to Quagsire. We're barely going to use any other held item because our speed stat is so slow. We'll pick up Dig and then we'll talk to the flower shop lady, and it's now time to take on Whitney. And we do not have to be scared of Whitney's rollout in this run, because ground resists rock. It's a type matchup I often forget, but it comes in very handy in this run. So we took care of the Clefairy in just 3 water guns, and I try ice punching the Miltank just to see if we can get it frozen. Didn't quite work out, so we swapped between water gun and ice punch as rollout does barely anything at all, and we grow to level 24 and defeat Whitney in a time of 39 minutes and 57 seconds. It's time to move on to Ecruteak City, and the first thing we're going to do is get Surf. Surf is going to be a massive upgrade to our special attack. It's going to replace Water Gun, and we're moving from a base 40 power move all the way up to a base 95 power move. So even with quite a lacking special attack like Quagsire has, this is a massive upgrade, and that 95 base power should make up for a little bit of the poor special attack. So we'll try it out against the Rivals Haunter, and we almost but not quite OHKO. A Curse does knock it out eventually. We've got Ice Punch of the Bayleaf now, as Curse does whittle away a little bit of damage, and we are on to Zubat. Ice Punch is also super effective against Zubat, and we knock it out in 1. Final Pokemon is Magnemite. Surf makes light work of Magnemite, and we have defeated Rival 2, and we can move on to Morty. Morty is the Ghost type leader who only has the Generation 1 Ghosts, which is always disappointing to me. So we'll start off with the Ghastly. We'll take Ghastly out in 1 shot with a critical hit Surf. Onto the Cursing Haunter as it uses Mean Look instead, and we knock it out with yet another critical hit. And in a change from his regular routine, he sends out his second Haunter first. It misses Hypnosis and we knock it out. Onto Gengar, who also misses Hypnosis, and 2 Surfs gets the job done. We have defeated Morty in a time of 47 minutes and 10 seconds, so we had very good Hypnosis luck compared to the last couple of runs. And we can move on to Olivine City, where the first thing we do is replace Tail Whip with Headbutt. We've been able to get away without using Headbutt so far. We'll then go and grab the Strength TM from the bloke in the cafe and move on up to the top of the lighthouse. We'll talk to Jasmine to make sure that we can battle her later. We'll drop down and pick up the rare candy, and then it's time to sail across the open sea towards Cyanwood City. Our first destination in Cyanwood City is the Medicine Man's house. He's going to give us that secret potion for the Ampharos at the top of the lighthouse, and while we're here we'll take on the gym. One of these days I'm going to remember to bring a helmet in instead of that cap for those strength puzzles. We always get quite a smooshed face because of it, and at the very top of the gym we speak to Chuck. Chuck is a fighting type leader, and he will lead with Primeape. We use a Surf to take it down into the yellow as it uses a couple of karate chomps on us. 91 HP as we go into the Poliwrath. Now the only suitable move we have for Poliwrath is Headbutt, and we get a lucky critical hit on the first turn. And here's the bad Hypnosis luck. We've been waiting for it. He hits a Dynamic Punch, so we're confused as well, but it doesn't even matter. We just stay asleep, and we do not get a chance to knock it out. So we'll try again, and hopefully this time we'll get better luck. Fury Swipes misses as we take Primeape into the yellow, and we knock it out in 2 turns. 104 HP for the Poliwrath. We're dealing roughly a quarter damage against the Poliwrath. We don't get the flinch off, and we are back to sleep. It's only a short nap this time though, and a Dynamic Punch misses, and we knock it out in just a few turns. We have defeated Chuck with a couple of resets, and a time of 55 minutes and 33 seconds. We'll grab Fly from Chuck's wife and use it straight away to go to Cherry Grove City, where we will pick up the Mystic Water. We're likely not going to use it much, but it's nice to have. We'll pick up the rare candy from the Lake of Rage, and while we're here we'll also pick up Hidden Power. Our Hidden Power type this time is Bug, and that will come in handy a little bit later on. Definitely not against the Gyarados though, because it's part flying, and because it's part flying I thought Ice Punch would have been a good move, but really it wasn't. It did barely anything at all. We actually came quite close to being knocked out by Gyarados. We got down to 24 HP, but we did manage to defeat it. And we can say hello to our favourite villain of the series. It's Lance the Liar. He's going to drag us into the underground whether we like it or not, so we're going to take our frustration on this grunt here. He's got a couple of Venonat, and we're going to drown everyone and everything in this bottom floor of the Rocket's hideout. So we'll take out the first and second Venonat, and we shall then add insult to injury by learning Earthquake to cause some seismic activity in here as well. We'll replace Headbutt with that, and we can move on further into the hideouts. We'll say hello again to Lance the Liar, and tell him where to go, and tell him we never want to see him again. We have things to do. The first thing we need to do is take on Price in the Ice Gym. He's got a Water type, a Water Ice type, and a Ground Ice type. We'll start with a Water type, and we take out Seal in just 1 hit. Out comes Dugong, and Dugong is relatively bulky and it takes a couple of hits. We get a critical hit Aurora Beam to the face for our trouble there. And final Pokemon is Piloswine. Piloswine is very easy because it's weak to water. We grow to level 38 and we defeat Price in a time of 1 hour, 4 minutes and 3 seconds. Let's move on to Jasmine. Now Jasmine is a steel type leader, and for once we have the type advantage over her. We've got Earthquake for the Magnemite, that's 4 times weak to ground. Earthquake for the second Magnemite as well, still 4 times weak to ground, and out comes the Steelix. Couple of choices for the Steelix. We use Earthquake to take it deep into the yellow, and another Earthquake knocks it out. Steelix has very, very poor special defense, so it would have been better to use Surf there, but it doesn't matter. We have the Mineral Badge in a time of 1 hour, 5 minutes and 29 seconds. We can move up into Violet City, pick up the Rare Candy, and go up to the top of the Sprout Tower, where we get our Flash HM. We've got another Rare Candy south of Goldenrod, and now it's time to take on rival number 4. It's been a while since we've seen the rival. He's caught some new Pokemon, and let's see just how well his team does. He's leading with Golbat, and we've still got Ice Punch, so we just punch it in the mouth after taking a wing attack, but it doesn't knock it out in one. This is how poor our special attack is at this point. Poison Powder misses us, and it's just a couple of Ice Punches to knock out the Meganium. As we grow to level 42, out comes the Sneasel, and we are in one of those situations where we don't actually have anything super effective against an Ice-type Pokemon. That is very, very rare, in fact, because Ice seems to be weak to everything, but we knock it out, we take out the Haunter with our Stab Earthquake, and Stab Earthquake does the same job on the Magnemite. Rival 4 is defeated, and we can move on all the way to Clair in Blackthorn City. Clair is a Dragon-type leader, and I am very, very glad that we have Ice Punch here, because Dragon types are the peskiest. We knock out Dragonair number 1 and we don't get paralysed. Of course we cannot get paralysed at all because we're ground type. That is one of the beauties of the ground typing. We don't have to worry about Thunder Wave, so all 3 Dragonair are gone. We're onto the Kingdra and we might as well just Earthquake it. We aren't going to be weak to water, but it is neutral because of our ground typing. We knock it out in a couple of Earthquakes and we have defeated Clair in a time of 1 hour, 25 minutes and 11 seconds. I always take the split from when I get the badge, so it doesn't matter when we knock out the final Pokemon. But after that we move into the Kanto region, we take our first steps there, grab the Rare Candy, and at the very end of Victory Road we have yet another rival battle. Earthquake on the Sneasel knocks it out in 1. Out comes Meganium. We use an Earthquake against it, even though it's not very effective. I just wanted to see how well it would do. An Earthquake and an Ice Punch is enough to knock out the rival's Meganium. Ice Punch is enough this time to knock out the Golbat in 1 turn. Out comes Kadabra. We don't have anything super effective on our learn set for Kadabra, but an Earthquake knocks it out in 1. Out comes Haunter. Super effective Earthquake for the Haunter, and the final Pokemon is Magneton. Magneton is 4 times weak to ground, so I feel very sorry for it. As we knock it out, grow to level 52, and we can say goodbye to the rival for yet another challenge. He's been not that good again this time, has he really? So now we'll go and heal up our Pokemon at the Pokemon League in preparation for taking them on. And we'll say thank you to our HM friends Kenya, Abra, Psyduck and Parrish. You've all been a great help around the Johto region. Get some well-deserved rest, and we'll see you back in Kanto. We'll pick up our 4 full restores. We'll either need them and get through the league, or we won't need them at all. And now let's take a look at our stats before we enter the league. We're level 52 and we have 193 HP. We're holding the Quick Claw, of course. We have Surf, Earthquake, Ice Punch and Amnesia as our moves. And in terms of stats, we have 126 attack and defense, 105 in the specials and 74 in speed. So it's very, very lucky we have the Quick Claw there, because the Quick Claw makes up for our worst stat. And the first league member we are taking on is Will. Will is a Psychic type trainer, and he will lead with Xatu. Now Xatu, of course, is Flying type, and that's perfect for us because we have an Ice Punch straight for its beak. It goes down in 1, and out comes Executor. Executor would be very scary if 1, we didn't knock it out in 1 hit, and 2, it had a grass type move on its learn set. Jinx, however, does send us to sleep and start psychicking us. But unfortunately for Jinx, we wake up very, very quickly and knock it out in 1 Earthquake. Out comes the Slowbro. We use an Earthquake as it uses Amnesia. Earthquake is a physical attack though, when we knock it out in just 2 hits. Final Xatu comes out, an Ice Punch to the beak once more takes care of it, and we have defeated Will with a time of 1 hour, 31 minutes and 38 seconds. Koga is next. Koga is a Poison type trainer, and that is fortuitous for us because we have Ground type on our side. So we'll start with an Earthquake on the Ariados, and of course Bug does resist Ground. That is one of the things I often forget, and I have no idea why, but it doesn't matter because Earthquake is such a powerful move, and in fact it takes out the Fortress in just 2 hits, no worry of it going boom. The penultimate Pokemon is Crobat. It uses a double team, but a critical hit Ice Punch takes care of it before it has a chance to poison us. Muck is the last Pokemon. That goes down to a single Earthquake, and we have defeated Koga in a time of 1 hour 32 minutes and 32 seconds. On to Bruno we go, and I say with no hyperbole, I think Bruno is one of the most covertly difficult trainers in the game. I know that a lot of people, including my very good friend Scott Stort, say that Bruno shouldn't even be in the Pokemon League because he's so weak, and while that might be true in Generation 1, his team in Generation 2 is very good at just chipping away, and then that Machamp can do a critical hit cross chop very easily and just ruin a run. In this run, however, we had the best luck I have had in a run in a very long time. We got Swaggered, which maximised our attack, and then we didn't hit ourselves in confusion once, which is absolutely fantastic. So with Bruno out of the way, we'll then replace Earthquake of all moves, our strongest move, with Hidden Power Bug. Now I promise you this isn't as big a misplay as it seems on the surface, and we'll start off by using Hidden Power Bug against Karen. Karen is a Dark type trainer, and this is one of the reasons why we have Hidden Power Bug, because that means we can say goodbye to the Umbreon in one hit. That felt fantastic. We'll punch the Vileplume in the mouth and it will miss its stun spore, which means we're not going to be paralysed for the rest of this battle. Out comes Murkrow, and this one gets an Ice Punch to the beak just like the Xatu beforehand. And now we're on to her Houndoom. We have Surf for Houndoom, but it does outspeed and drop our special defense, and we are in the yellow as the Gengar comes out. I misclick here and select Hidden Power instead of using Surf, but it doesn't matter because we do manage to get a lucky Quick Claw, knock out the Gengar, and we have defeated Karen in a time of 1 hour 34 minutes and 41 seconds. Just Lance the Liar with the Flyers left to go in the Pokemon League, and he will lead with a Gyarados. And as we learned at the Lake of Rage, we don't really have anything too good against Gyarados, so we're just going to have to rely on Ice Punch, and eventually we'll knock it out as it uses a combination of Surf and Hyper Beam against us. Onto the Dragonite, and Ice Punch is perfect for the Dragonite. That 4 times weakness means it gets knocked out. Dragonite number 2 comes out as it uses Blizzard. Our Quick Claw doesn't activate on this turn, and we are in the yellow as we go on to Dragonite number 3. Outrage takes us deep into the red. We're only on 24 HP as we knock it out in 1. 2 more Pokemon left to go. Quick Claw activates against the Charizard, which means we knock it out in 1. Final Pokemon is Aerodactyl, and once again we get a very lucky Quick Claw to knock out Aerodactyl and defeat Lance, and on stream the chat was going wild because they couldn't believe we had defeated Lance with that much luck. So we get a league time of exactly 1 hour and 36 minutes, and don't go away because Kanto is next. And we rejoin you right outside where it all began in New Bark Town. We get a phone call from Professor Elm, and he's got some stuff for us. The first thing he's going to give us is an SS ticket, so that will let us get to the Kanto region, and the second thing he gives us is a Master Ball. We're going to be using that to catch Snorlax in Kanto a little bit later on. And now it's time to say welcome back to our HM friends. They had a lovely little rest while we were doing the league, so we say welcome back to Kenya, Abra, Psyduck and Paris. And now it's time to move on to the Goldenrod Game Corner because we've got to spend all our money. We've got to spend a grand total of 80,000 Pokédollars on our next move. We're going to get Ice Beam, and that is going to replace Ice Punch. So no more punching things in the mouth for this run. Instead, we're just going to focus our mind and beam the energy towards the opposing Pokemon instead. And I believe it was either a comment or somebody in the chat told me that the person who teaches the moves is actually Bill's father. And that would make an awful lot of sense because you do of course encounter Bill in Goldenrod City a little bit earlier on in the game. With that move learned, we can then go into Mount Malta and pick up our first of 2 rare candies. The next rare candy is in the Whirl Islands, and that is actually the last thing we have to do in the Johto region. So we'll pick it up, we'll escape out of the Whirl Islands, and we'll go to Vermilion City. Of course, the first thing we do in Kanto is the last thing we do in Johto. We get yet another rare candy, this time from the chairman of the Pokemon fan club, and now we can move on to what could be the most dangerous gym in the entire run for us. It's Erica, who is very tall in her Generation 2 art and very short in all the other artwork for some reason. She is a grass-type leader, and that can be particularly scary. Giga Drain doesn't do too much from the Jumpluff though, and Jumpluff is a Pokemon I am dreading taking around the Kanto and Johto regions. I think it'll be an absolute nightmare because it doesn't learn an attacking move straight off the bat, and also it has very poor stats and learn set in general. But we did manage to defeat Erica first time, and we can move straight away onto Misty. Mist is a water type leader and she will lead with Golduck. So with the Golduck we'll use Hidden Power even though it's not a psychic type, and that'll take it down in 2 hits. Out comes her Quagsire, and it's Quagsire against Quagsire, and being part ground that means that water is the way to go. It uses Amnesia, which means it didn't get a hit on us. Now we're on to Lapras. Lapras is very scary because Lapras knows Sing and it also knows Perish Song, We managed to get a critical hit with our first hidden power, another critical hit knocks it out, onto Starmie, and Hidden Power Bug is perfect for Starmie, as Starmie is part Psychic type, and we knock it out in one hit to defeat Misty in a time of 1 hour 47 minutes and 46 seconds. Before we take on Sabrina, we have to very quickly go back to Celadon City, because after defeating Erica I forgot to pick up the Curse TM, that's going to come in handy later, and now let's take on Sabrina. She is a Psychic type leader, and she leads with Espeon. We've got Hidden Power Bug, which means we are able to deal super effective damage, however our accuracy did get dropped with a sand attack, and that comes into play here against the Mr. Mime. We missed 2 hidden powers in a row, and that lets it use both Barrier and Reflect. We miss yet another hidden power, we finally hit it again, and one more hidden power knocks it out. We're only on 57 as we go to the Alakazam. We get the Quick Claw activation, the Reflect fades, and we knock out Alakazam in one hit. We have a time of 1 hour 50 minutes and 14 seconds for Sabrina. Let's move on to Surge, and I didn't teach Earthquake for Surge because I still want Hidden Power Bag for one more Pokemon later on. So we use Surf against the Raichu to knock it out in one, and now we're on to the Magneton. Earthquake would have been great against the Magneton, but it doesn't matter because we OHKO with a Surf. Out comes Electabuzz. Electabuzz uses Light Screen, and that means it's going to take just a couple of Surfs to take it out. And now we're on to the pair of Electrode. Electrode 1 goes down in 2 Surfs as it uses Swift each time, and that's very fortuitous that it didn't go Boom on us, and I don't think the last Electrode can go Boom, because of course it is his final Pokemon and that would be an instant loss. So we've defeated Surge with a time of 1 hour 52 minutes and 15 seconds. Let's catch our final Pokemon of the run. It is going to be the Snorlax blocking Diglett's Tunnel, and even though it's not used for any field moves at all, Snorlax is just as important because it gives us the leftovers without having to take a massive detour. Now in Brock's gym, this one should be very, very easy. He's of course a Rock-type leader. He'll start with a Graveler, and that will get knocked out in a single Surf because it is 4 times weak to Water. I feel very, very sorry for Generation 1 Rock and Ground types, because they're often paired together, and that means they have a 4 times weakness to 2 of the starters types. I was having a little chat in the comments with someone, and they were saying that they thought Rock and Ground were the same type at the very beginning when they first started playing the game, and that is very true, because most Rock-type Pokemon were paired with Ground. The only ones I can think of are the Fossils and Aerodactyl that weren't paired with Ground in Generation 1, but we defeated Brock in a time of 1 hour 53 minutes and 52 seconds, we had a little chat with Blue, and now it's time for Blaine. And unfortunately for Blaine, I think this will just be a massacre. We start off with a Surf against the Magcargo, 4 times weak to Water yet again. Rapidash is just 1 times weak to Water, but that goes down in a single hit. And the final Pokemon is the Bumhead Fireduck. Magmar goes down to a single Surf, and we have defeated Blaine in a time of 1 hour 55 minutes and 44 seconds. Let's move on to Janine. Now Janine is a Poison type leader who's taken over from her father, and she uses Confuse Ray against us. It doesn't matter though, because we critical hit her Crobat to knock it out in just one. Out comes the Ariados. We're no longer confused, and a Surf takes care of the Ariados. On to Venomoth, and Venomoth doesn't like its wings getting wet and gets knocked out in one. And finally she has a pair of Weezing. Weezing 1 gets knocked out with 1 Surf, and Weezing 2 goes down in much the same way, and we have defeated Janine in a time of 1 hour 57 minutes and 4 seconds. And the final gym leader we have to take on is Blue. Blue has a mixed variety of Pokemon from Generation 1, and he will lead with Pidgeot. Pidgeot uses Wing Attack to deal a tiny bit of damage to us, as we use an Ice Beam against it. 2 Ice Beams knocks it out, and we are now on to Exeggutor, and this is the reason we kept Hidden Power Bug. That 4 times weakness to Bug when we are 4 times weak to one of its typings was perfect. Hidden Power also gets the job done against Alakazam, and that brings us on to Gyarados. Gyarados really does throw a spanner in the works here because we still have nothing super effective against it. Hyper Beam takes us down to 1, we don't knock it out, and that now means this battle is unwinnable. Gyarados hits his next Hyper Beam. That knocks us out, so let's try again. This time we're going to be holding the leftovers instead of the Quick Claw, and hopefully that will mean we can regain enough HP to get through the Gyarados. Pidgeot goes identically to how it did before, and we are on to the Exeggutor. Now my chat asked me to try an Ice Beam here to see how well that would do. We didn't OHKO, but it took in Sunlight, so it didn't really matter in the end. On to the Alakazam we go. We don't outspeed because we don't have the Quick Claw, and that lets it set up Reflect. That means it takes 2 turns to knock out the Alakazam instead of 1, and we're now back onto the Gyarados. Fortunately, we're going to be using special attacks for the Gyarados, which means we don't have to worry about the rest of Reflect. The battle against Gyarados itself is a bit of a war of attrition. All we really have against it is Ice Beam. Everything else won't deal much damage at all, and we're just going to have to keep chipping away and hope we don't run out of PP before he full restores again. So we take it into the red. He needs to recharge, which was brilliant, and that let us get onto the Rhydon. Rhydon is very easy because it's 4 times weak to Surf, and the final Pokemon at long last is the Arcanine. Arcanine's Flamethrower deals a tiny bit of damage, but we take it out in a single Surf, and we have defeated Blue in a time of 1 hour 59 minutes and 47 seconds. No sub 2 hours this time, as the time crosses over the 2 hour mark as we talk to Professor Oak, and that's going to let us go to Mount Silver. Just one more thing to do before we go into Mount Silver itself, and that's pick up the final rare candy. And now it is time for Red. As is tradition, we'll try at our current level with our current learn set and tweak things from there. We do that just to see how well we would do naturally progressing. We don't one-shot the Pikachu, but the only thing Pikachu can hit us with is Quick Attack. It can lower our attack with Charm, but after turn 1 there is a very minimal chance of Charm actually being selected. So we knock out the Pikachu and we are onto the scary Venusaur. One hit from any of its grass moves could knock us out, but we freeze it with Ice Beam. This was very lucky. It doesn't thaw out and we are through the biggest roadblock. Onto Espeon we go. We still have Hidden Power, but it uses Reflect, and this is where the battle starts to fall apart. A critical hit Psychic is enough to take us down into the red, and one more knocks us out. So let's quickly change our learn sets. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to replace Hidden Power Bug with Earthquake. We picked up the TM back in Victory Road, so that does mean we don't have to worry about not having our strongest stab move. And the second move we're going to teach is Curse. It's time for our Quagsire to start swearing, and we are going to replace Ice Beam with it. That way we can boost our attack against the Pikachu, because Pikachu can barely hit us at all. So at level 65 we shall start swearing at Pikachu. He uses a charm, that means we're going to have to use 8 of our curses to get ourselves up to maximum attack. He hits another charm, that means we're going to have to use all 10 of our curses instead. And Quick Attack is dealing so little damage that we are fully recovering with our leftovers each and every time. So it's just a case of getting all 10 of our curses done, and then we can move on to just a couple of Amnesias as well. The combination of Curse and Amnesia together means we are going to barely take any damage from any move at all. Even a 4 times Grass move, if it isn't a critical hit, will do very little damage. And now that we've done all that, we can start our sweep. Earthquake takes care of the Pikachu. We then use an Earthquake against the Venusaur to knock it out in one hit, and out comes the Espeon. Espeon uses Psychic against us, and it deals barely 30 damage. Earthquake knocks it out in one, and we are on to Snorlax. We use Earthquake against the Snorlax as it uses Amnesia, and we knock it out in one solid hit. We were 9 levels below Snorlax, and we still OHKO'd it. Blastoise's next Blizzard barely touches us at all, and we knock it out with another single shot from Earthquake, and the final Pokemon is Charizard. Charizard's Flamethrower does nothing at all, the sunlight fades, and that means we can take it out in just 2 Surfs. And that was the quickest red fight I think we have ever had in one of our challenge runs. It was just 5 minutes between getting our badge from Blue and defeating Red. So that is very good for our Quagsire. Unfortunately, it's all the way down in 12th place because of that very slow start. That means Magcargo is now down in 18th place and no change at the top of the leaderboard. Girafarig in first, Ursaring in second, Jinx in third. And with that, we are done. So I'm going to say thank you all so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed yourself. If you have, please do leave a like down below. If you've got anything at all to say, leave it in the comments. I now have a Patreon at patreon.com/trainersquidgy. And if you've really enjoyed yourself, please do consider subscribing. Until next time, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you very soon.